Hello, welcome to What the Flick. I am Christy. This is Alonzo. This is Matt. This is Ben. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was the original Star Wars. Don't call Episode 4 A New Hope. It's Star Wars.
Exactly.
Come on, people.
Right on.
So there's another Star Wars coming out pretty soon. You may have heard of it. And so leading up to that, we're going to go back and look at all 6 of the original films in release order, the way God intended it. We're not starting with 1. We're starting with 4.
And we're not doing the Clone Wars movie, and we're not doing the Ewoks Adventure or the Droids series or the holiday special.
We're
not doing the holiday special. No! I'm not watching that again. I can't take it.
The guy who wrote the Christmas book does not want to talk about the holiday special. That's how bad it is.
If you want to hear me talk about the Star Wars holiday special, Bibbs and Whitney and I did a commentary track for it last year. Google it. I'm not doing it again.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Okay.
Like these were like things that were on TV.
There were things. Tangential Star Wars properties.
Oh, you should watch the holiday.
So,
you must.
Matt Atcherdy, please tell us what Star Wars is about.
All right, so Star Wars is the story of a young man from a modest background who finds out that he is the hidden hero and has this messianistic destiny that's going to change the world. Oh wait, am I talking about
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter? Am I talking about Lord of the Rings?
He's Jesus.
He's Jesus. This is the classic hero story translated into a futuristic world that's a lived-in, very used world. Lot of reality here. Basically, we have this farm boy who comes across these droids that he tries to get back to a princess. The crazy old man helps him. Adventure ensues that we will all remember for decades.
20th Century Fox presents the most extraordinary motion picture of all time, Star Wars.
Here's where the fun begins.
No legendary adventure of the past could be as exciting as this romance of the future.
Here they come.
May the Force be with you in Star Wars.
Okay, so Star Wars. So do we all go back just to watch it to review this? Because I've watched them recently, right?
Yes,
I have
did
a kid.
watch it recently.
Perhaps you know this. I went back and watched them with my kid.
I feel super manipulated because I don't understand why there are 10-year-olds today who are obsessed with Star Wars. I mean,
6-year-olds who are obsessed with Star Wars.
Right?
Yes.
But whatever, 6, 10, they should be the same. They have not been of age for any movie, and the only movies that they were at age for, they were bad. And so. And that's if you're 10 or 12. So I just think I paid Verizon Fios, essentially paying Lucasfilm, $108 because I didn't own them. I know. It would have been easy because I'm sure if I'd thought of it ahead of time, I could have borrowed something.
I got 8 copies of each movie. You should have called them.
I have the whole 9-disc collection.
I borrowed them too.
Right, so I'm the idiot, and I'm the guy. So I just paid $108 because I was like, no, I got to start it now. I got to start it right now. But I could have gotten in my car and gone to one of y'all's houses.
Luckily, I have the kind of nerd friends who have the DVD rip of the laser disc, so I got to see the unfutzed with Lucas version, like the Han shoots first.
I know which friend that is.
Yeah, so that was super helpful. I had not seen these in a long time.
Neither I. I've seen them in 20 years.
This is to give you perspective. I think I've only ever seen all these movies on the big screen.
Okay.
So whenever the last time they reissued them, I guess was maybe the last time I saw them.
When Episode 3 came out, did they put them all back out again then?
Or Episode 1, yeah something like that. One thing I learned in all this experience is these movies are not good on television, at least for me. I mean, I guess if you grew up watching them on TV and that's how you see them, great. But having seen them on the big screen, to watch them on the small screen is like, oh, this is...
Like it looks chintzy?
It looks chintzy and it's just not as sweeping. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing about the movies. There are just certain, like I don't want to watch Barry Lyndon on TV either, I think there are certain movies that you really need that big experience of. And I wonder now if maybe when younger people originally went gaga for Episode 1, if it maybe just was the idea that they were seeing it in big THX for the first time.
There's a few things going on, and I think to your point, like some of those effects, and if you watch the difference between the original film and then the remastered version, the effects on the small screen hold up much, much better. Right. The other thing too is the first half of the movie
on the small screen hold up.
I'm sorry, on the big screen they hold up. On the small screen they hold up better in the remastered version.
And I was forgiving of that stuff, like because I know that it was practicals and it wasn't.
That's part of its charm, though. I think in retrospect.
Well, but the other thing is the first half of this movie looks like half of John Ford's movies, right?
Sure.
And a John Ford movie doesn't hold up as well on the small screen. I think you get more drama if you're watching that on the big screen. Now,
You think it looks like a John Ford movie?
absolutely.
Well, the desert
like all of
stuff,
that
yeah.
desert, all of that sweeping desert
I
landscapes.
got it.
Like,
It's got the same setting. It doesn't look like
We're not saying it's a John Ford movie. We're saying the other thing I was going to say was
it's
leading
an
to
Edsel
that.
Ford movie.
come on.
No, but the other point I was going to get
See,
to
they got
actually
the
that
same
you
last
bring up
name.
is that the amount of movie love in this movie really rings true to me the older that I get and the more I recognize the references. Where you've got these John Ford landscapes, and then you've got these like sort of Errol Flynn and Robin Hood, swinging across chasms and sword fights, and then you've got like a World War II movie dogfight sequence or something.
Right. You've got the dam busters. You've got references to Hidden Fortress.
Sure.
I mean, people give Tarantino a bad rap for lifting pieces of different movies.
No, totally. Yeah.
Right. Lucas did this before Tarantino
It's
was born.
Generation
practically.
Film School.
Look, like there's a lot of things that I think go into what makes this movie what it is, and part of it is the film reference. I think part of it is very creative and has these iconic characters. Part of it is that Lucas set out to write a story that basically is Cliff's Notes of the collected works of Joseph Campbell, which is it's the classic hero story.
Yes,
and he
that's
does it just generically enough that everybody can come into it. It's very, very accessible. And the characters are easily understood. Now, I think that when you come to the dialogue of this movie, that's the real weak spot. There's a lot of places the dialogue is terrible.
And that's
in this
always
movie.
true with all Lucas stuff, I think.
I
Don't you?
I disagree, because I think when we start talking about the movies where Lawrence Kasdan wrote the script,
I was
you
going
get
to
a
say,
much
we get to
different-
better
Empire. We'll
writers.
get to
Yeah.
Empire.
But
Yeah.
the excitement of this movie and the pacing, they legendarily, like, they had to recut the whole film because the original cut was awful and almost unwatchable. So once you get past the pace, when you take the pacing and the visuals and the effects for the time, yeah, this movie is a huge hit. It changed Hollywood permanently.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, when you take everything into account, I think this movie holds up. And I think that the reason kids get into this is it's easy for kids to follow. And because it's this classic hero story, almost no matter where you live in the world, we are wired to respond to a story like this. And I think that's where you can really look at the genius of Lucas. It's less about the filmmaking and more about he told this story that he knew was going to resonate with almost everybody in the
Just
world.
the way it starts, just the unfolding, the words on the screen,
Yeah.
that sort of simplistic way, which is incredibly simple. But I think that has to be a big part of why, like you haven't seen a frame of the movie yet, and you're like, oh, okay, well,
The big stuff is
there's
happening
a Death
here. Yeah.
Star. My
Yeah,
God.
but the good versus evil is primal. The simplicity of it is
Like, it's a
primal.
simple
Yeah.
story. Like, the good guys are totally good and the bad guys are totally bad, right? And there are no shades of gray in this movie. But you know what? It's exciting enough, and that's okay.
What's interesting, though, is you're right. On the one hand, super easy story to grasp. I was surprised, though, at how much exposition there is about characters we barely know about in the first hour. The references to these passing things about Jabba the Hutt or about the Rebel Alliance. I mean, this movie
Right,
just
the
kind of
Senate,
throws
the
you
Emperor,
into it. Like, I think a lot of other movies would stop and say, like, okay, here's what's going on. There's this empire, and there's this, and then just in the dialogue, if you're paying attention, just names of characters who won't turn up for another movie or so, and events that happen that we'll find out their true import later on.
Right.
Just zip, 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 zip. I remember seeing it for the first time, being like, I'm missing things, but I don't care. Oh my God! This
And
is
look,
so
for
great.
all the nerds out there, yes, we know that Jabba was in the original cut of the film. Yes, we know that they talk about the Emperor. Like, don't try and out-nerd us on Star Wars. You're not gonna
Don't try
win.
not to Matt
nerd him.
actually,
Yeah.
right?
You can out-nerd me.
No, but yeah, so the
Or
mythology.
can
No, the mythology of it is dense, despite the simplicity of like the good versus evil and the hero's journey. The mythology of it, and, as we know, he had this always planned as 9 movies, right? So he was
so he
like,
says.
Okay, well, at least 6, right?
Well,
It was
so the
always
initial
6,
word was
right?
like, oh, there's going to be 6. Like, whatever he may have said, as everybody got caught up in the fame of this, even if this never saw a sequel, I think that this would go down as a classic of cinema. And I hesitate to call it science fiction because it's not. It's more
Fantasy.
heroic
It takes place in
fantasy,
space,
right?
so, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not science fiction in the way Star Trek is.
Given that there's a general consensus that this is a classic, I would like to hear why Ben doesn't like it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're calling you out.
Well, I mean, what it did, as Matt said, it changed the movies. It changed the way, it changed the business model. It changed everything. It It killed Roger Corman's movies. It did, it had a huge...
Right, Corman tried to follow up with that Battle
Beyond the Stars.
Battle Beyond the Stars.
It turned B movies into A movies.
Right, it turned B movies into A movies, and look, everybody. I saw this movie 3 times at 10 years old, like everybody else. But those second and third times, I was like, why am I going to this again? This is everybody else is going, so yay, we're going again. But I
So you never got it. You never liked
Never
it.
got it. I wanted to see. I saw Smokey and the Bandit 3 times. That was fun. Better movie, 1977.
Oh,
That's the best movie
No,
in
well,
1977. But like as I was watching it again, I just watched these in 3 straight nights. I watched Jedi last night, Empire 2 nights ago, and Star Wars 3 nights ago. And I was just struck by, it's like there's still a lot of 50s sci-fi in it. A
Yes.
lot of those effects. So it's really, you're seeing the transition happen. And stuff was better in Empire. And then one of the problems with Jedi is I just thought Jedi was Star Wars again. Like,
Well, let's get to that.
Well, yeah,
so-
we'll come to that in a couple more reviews.
Right, we'll get to, but
Click
so,
on that one too.
So there was still a lot of bad 50s hokiness in it. So it just felt like a movie for kids. That's what it totally felt like to me. So I am still struck by the reverence that is paid to it by
See,
full-blown
now I don't
born
disagree
grown-ups.
with you. Like, look, like Lucas set out originally to make he originally wanted to make Flash Gordon, right? Flash Gordon was tied up at Universal. He couldn't make that, so he sets out to do his own thing. In fact, that crawl at the beginning is a reference to the
Right.
old Republic serials,
Yeah.
right? What he ends up with is this movie that I think, yes, it's a kid's movie, and it is very simple, but it transcends that. And I think this
It
is that
clearly
rare
does.
movie that transcends that.
Yeah.
And, you're the exception. And I'm not calling you, like, obviously it doesn't resonate with everybody, and that's fine. But it became a phenomenon, and I think you can't not acknowledge that there is something in that film, and a lot of it is, I just think he zeroes in on this hero story that he makes exciting enough that you can't turn away
It
from
must be that, but why is it that this film is still relevant to 8-year-olds today? Why is your son, why does he know about it?
Because his mom's a film critic.
So no, it's not just.
First of all.
but his
No, I
friends
know,
know
because
about it. They
there's
all know about it.
merchandise. Because you go
Right,
into the
and that's why I don't understand
No,
why you
but that's-
normally
but
cynical
it's-
people don't resent some of that.
No. There's a
But it's a
generation.
lot of that.
There's a
Wait.
generation of people our age who love that movie, and they show it to their kids, and their kids love it too. I'm kind of between the two of you guys. Like I get the importance of this movie in the canon. I loved it when I was 10. I did not adopt it as a way of life the way a lot of people that I know have. Like this shirt was a gift, okay? But the thing, but watching it again now, I realize how it's. I mean, I can't even review this movie anymore. It's like reviewing a national landmark.
It's like reviewing water.
Yeah, exactly. It's just there,
It's
you know.
part of our world.
You watch it now, and it's like every single thing in it has become a joke on Robot Chicken or in a Kevin
Yeah.
Smith movie,
Right.
and it's just, or it's quoted in dialogue, or it's been referenced somewhere else. It's the fucking Wizard of Oz, whether we like it or not. It's just this thing
that's right,
now
that's right.
that there's no getting around, and I can't even look at it from a dramatic point of view. I can kind of pick at things like, oh, what happened to Leah's British accent, or why is Luke such a whiny bitch? But ultimately. They're the Easter Island heads, you know?
Yeah. It's hard for me. Go ahead.
I think that
I want to say something at some point too,
at the
though.
core.
Because I haven't talked yet.
Girls don't know about Star Wars.
I like Princess Leia because she's
Go
a
ahead.
girl. I was gonna say it's hard for me to separate the nostalgia of the film from the film itself, right?
Sure.
Like I remember as a kid, this is the first movie-going experience for me where I realized this is the vision of somebody, right? This now I know it's all stolen and borrowed and pieced together from other stuff, but in that moment, this was a very specific world and a very original world. And to me, like that was my first. I was what? 5 or 6 when I saw it, and so I remember thinking like this is a true thing that's its own thing. But now as an adult, like it's just fun. Like I've watched it with Nicholas. Nick knows what it is. Nick went as Darth Vader for Halloween last year. He's got the backpack. He's got the lunchbox. You know. So yes, I'm part of the problem, Vandy. I realize that. But having said that, it's paced beautifully. It's really fun. Harrison Ford. We've not said the words Harrison Ford yet. Charismatic as hell. Young
Yes.
Harrison Ford was hot and exciting, and the banter with Leia is snappy. And
Carrie Fisher's great in this.
Yes,
Like,
and
Yes.
you
she's
hear about
great in
alternate
this.
casting
Yeah.
with like Sissy Spacek originally
Yeah. Or
cast in
Amy
that,
Irving,
or Amy
right?
Irving. Like it's hard to imagine somebody other than Carrie Fisher doing this role. She's so fierce in this role.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I think one of the things that appeals to kids about this, and appeals to a lot of people, is that the story, as simple as it is, it sets out to have a philosophy. And there's I think it touches people the same way religion does, and people have a religious devotion to this movie. And you know, this is a movie that tells kids how to act. Like, don't be bad, be good. And,
okay.
I like that line. It's a philosophy, you know, similar to the way that I think the Toy Story movies and Pixar movies give us examples. This is a movie that shows, for all our quibbles, shows us the power of how movies can communicate to us.
Be a Zen Buddhist. Right. Don't give in to your emotions.
I got it. I concede it, and I don't think that the people who love it, I don't think there's anything wrong. I get it. I just. It is mystifying to me why this and not the Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, Indiana Jones movies or Toy Story, why they haven't had the same cultural relevance and impact to kids. And so, and the fact that I paid $108 and the fact that Nick has we're all in it. Like we all. I don't quite get why this. Although the fact that all these things came at once, that it's the perfect hero story, that it teaches kids how to do this, that it was this. First Jaws in 75 and then this in 77 completely changed the business.
Also, it's in the context of what else was being made in the 70s, right? Like this was an optimistic popcorn movie when everybody else was like post-Nixon, like, oh,
this is the post-Vietnam movie.
Right.
I forgot to look it up this morning, but the great Alec Guinness line, you know, just about like, what am I doing? And I mean, the guy made more money on these 3 movies than I'm sure he made in every other movie he made as great an actor.
Yeah, the Ealing comedies I don't think paid as well, probably.
He got paid for, and he has that great line about like, what am I doing in these movies? And these actors have no experience, but he does say that thing. He goes, but there's a quality to this Harrison. Yeah. He was like, there is one guy here who.
Right.
All right, so we're going to give Star Wars numbers. So, Ben Minkowitz, what's your number on Star Wars?
6.5.
Okay.
So you don't yell at me.
Matt. They'll yell anyway. They'll find a reason. Matt.
Knowing that this is flawed, but it's still a great movie. I give it an 8.
All right. You give it an 8?
I give
it a lower mine.
I give it an 8.8 because I mean I look at it and I can you know, because we know it all so well backwards and forwards. That's when you can start finding the tiny flaws, but they're tiny flaws. I mean,
real quick. The transitions. It is
the
abrupt,
wipes,
and it's true in all 3 of the movies. And I get it that Lucas only directed the first one, but it is abrupt and jarring almost every time.
They do wipes.
I don't think the scenes in any movie end. They're just like, okay, well that thing's over.
But again, that's the serial homage.
I was gonna say
that's if you look at
an homage, you do it twice.
No, it's conceit.
38 times
It's a
in every movie.
conceit. There's consistency, right? I know what that's about. I know why he's doing that.
It has no edge. It has no. They're not. It's not rounded. It doesn't flow. Any of them. I don't think any of them flow. They're not that good.
All right. Well, I'm going to give my number now. My number is an 8.2. So our average is 7.9.
And Teddy Roosevelt is his cheekbones are wrong on Mount Rushmore. That's a flawed thing too. Yeah.
Matt,
the Washington Monument isn't high enough.
Where is Star Wars?
The Constitution isn't long enough.
Washington's dick was not square like that. 94% on the tomato.
Everybody else likes Star Wars except for Ben.
1 in 20 don't like it. All right.
94%.
That's 1 in 20.
Armand White probably reviewed it.
Bye.